These actors used to be the biggest faces in comedy, yet many of them completely disappeared. And the stories behind what happened are insane, including one becoming an OnlyFans millionaire, a star who went through horrifying trauma behind the scenes, many who passed too early, and one disappearing from the internet entirely. Seann William Scott had one of the most incredible career trajectories of all time. He went straight from working minimum wage jobs.
I was working at Home Depot as a plumber. I lived in LA for like 3 years, and I think I worked at Scientific Revolution selling glow-in-the-dark stars. I worked at California Pizza Kitchen as a host.
To landing his first film role ever as Stifler in American Pie.
Here for the party?
What party? There's no party. Weird.
And boy did he go on an epic run, absolutely taking over comedy movies. From EuroTrip,
The hell is that? Did you kill a cheetah?
to Dude, Where's My Car,
An emergency.
So is this, dude? It's a breakdancing emergency.
to Role Models,
I'm sort of into politics.
No, I'm sort of engaged.
I sort of have a boner.
along with so many others. But after his rise to A-list status, he quietly disappeared from the spotlight. Part of this no doubt had to do with the lack of comedy movies being produced this decade, but at the same time, his personal life was turned upside down. Because during this time, he became a father, went through a divorce, and gradually moved away from the acting world. Though he recently has jumped back into the scene with the sitcom Shifting Gears, coming with a $225,000 per episode salary that will no doubt help fund his child support. Speaking of those who got their big break on American Pie, how about Shannon Elizabeth, who became an international sex symbol thanks to this movie?
Could help me with my studies.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great sometime.
I have ballet practice. I could change clothes at your place.
She parlayed this into Scary Movie and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, though despite the momentum, her career never quite took off like Sean's, and it took an unexpected turn. While she's still acted over the years, it's mainly been in small budget indies, and her main focus has shifted completely outside of acting. Instead, she's become a big voice for animal rights, and even reinvented herself as a professional poker player, which we have in common. You may not know this, but I'm actually a professional poker player too. And have been for nearly 6 years now. Her most recent move has been launching an OnlyFans account, which apparently led to over $1 million in its first week, and a divorce from her husband. But what about one of the most iconic characters of a comedy movie this century?
All right, that's good. It's hard to trace, I guess. Wait, you changed your name to McLovin? What kind of a stupid name is that, Fogel? What, are you trying to be an Irish R&B singer?
Oh, they let you pick any name you want when you get down there. Yeah, I was between that or Muhammad.
Why the f would it be between that or Muhammad?
Christopher Mintz-Plasse really hit the jackpot with the way they decided to cast this role.
The casting agency sent emails to, like, teachers, and my friend's mom works at a school, so he got the email, and he went to audition, but he told me, he's like, oh, yeah, you look like you could fit the part, so why not just come down with us?
And it was his first acting role of any kind ever, but you never know. And just like that, he went from a no-name high school student to one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. He alone was basically a cultural phenomenon. There were people everywhere wearing those McLovin shirts. Hell, you even see them from time to time nowadays. And the movie's almost 20 years old at this point. He followed Superbad up with Role Models, Kick-Ass, and Neighbors. If it feels like you haven't seen him in forever, it's probably because you haven't. In recent years, he's mostly stepped away from live-action comedy and shifted into voice acting through franchises like How to Train Your Dragon and Trolls. But his biggest creative focus in recent years hasn't even been in film, but instead his music. But what about the other kid who completely stole the show in Role Models?
I don't want to take my pants off.
What? Whoa.
All right, Ronnie, that's enough. This trying to grab my joint.
He's probably one of the first characters you think of when you think about Role Models, but you also probably can't name another movie Bobby Thompson has been in. That's probably because despite his iconic role in Role Models, he never broke through as a movie star. Outside of smaller roles in movies like Land of the Lost and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, he hasn't been in any other big films. But the impressive part is that he's still going strong today. It's essentially all been through indie movies, but he's built up 15 acting credits, and actually has 3 more that are yet to be released. The haters are gonna say he fell off, but I'm gonna say great job. It's so hard to make it as an actor, and yet he's just still chugging along. Anyone that can go from acting in big studio movies to acting in a bunch of movies that don't even have 1% the budget of those movies clearly does not have any ego, and they definitely deserve any success that may come their way. But let's get even younger, because Brett Kelly was only 8 when he killed it in Bad Santa.
You have to get mad.
Yeah, kid, come on, get mad.
Scream at him. You're
fucking with me. You did that on purpose. You sit there and you play like the fucking dead lice are falling off of you, and then suddenly you're like fucking Seabiscuit all over the goddamn place. You're a smart ass is what you are, kid.
Want to play again?
Despite how legendary his performance in this movie was, his career really never took off afterwards. Trick or Treat and High School were fun, but had nowhere near the cultural impact of Bad Santa. Eventually, he stepped away from acting, getting a degree from the University of British Columbia. He's only acted sparingly since, notably with the Bad Santa sequel and a Canadian legal drama called Family Law. I actually even tried to interview him last year, but his representation just never responded, and he's really kept quite the low profile in recent years. But speaking of someone who's hard to get a hold of, this one's been by far the most mysterious. He even deleted his representation from his IMDb Pro page. And if you grew up in the 2000s, he probably dominated your TV screen.
You're seeing another mom.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't lie to me!
It's not what you think.
Who is she?
Why does that matter?
Who is she?
Mrs. Finnegan.
Eric Sullivan rose to fame through Malcolm in the Middle, which was a staple of network television for 7 seasons and an extraordinary 151 episodes. After Malcolm in the Middle went off the air, so did Eric's career, and he hasn't been in the public spotlight since. The wildest part of all of this, though, is that he didn't just leave Hollywood. He's just straight up avoided everything about it, including the castmates that he grew up with. He skipped the Malcolm in the Middle reunions, and even turned down the show's reboot to focus on his studies at Harvard, a decision that his castmates adamantly support.
Yeah, he wasn't in the show for all the best reasons possible. We lost him to academia.
And
great.
I had such admiration for somebody who knows himself that well.
He likes where he's at, so we respected that, but he was like, please recast it.
So he was down.
Please do it.
Speaking of TV stars who swore off acting once they became adults, how about Jeanette McCurdy, best known for iCarly?
You think I should work him over with a butter sock?
You know, I really don't.
Did she say butter sock? Is that a sock? Full of butter?
I had a crush on her in middle school, and she definitely drew my viewing habits of the show every day. But behind the scenes, things were way darker than anyone could have imagined. Listening to her autobiography, I'm Glad My Mom Died, was quite the eye-opening experience. Her mom was one of those awful parents who forced their kids into acting, and Jeanette hated every second of it. There were also just like some really bizarre, sick things going on. Like, her mom forced her to let her wipe her ass and take showers with her brother when they were both well into puberty. The whole story was honestly nauseating, but at the same time, it's one of the best books I've ever consumed. To no surprise, Jeanette no longer acts, and, you know, good for her. I'm happy for her. She's finally free. On a much lighter note, how about Milton from Office Space, played by Stephen Root?
Could you turn that down just a little bit?
But I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume from 9 to 11.
Yeah, no, I know you're allowed to. I was just thinking maybe like a, personal favor.
Well, I told Bill that if Sandra's going to listen to her headphones while she's falling, then I should be able to listen to the radio while I'm collating. So I don't see why I should have to turn down the radio because
all right, okay.
I enjoy listening.
Iconic. I really need to watch this movie again. It's been nearly 6 years. But the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Office Space is definitely Milton. I'm super embarrassed to say this, but I had no idea he's also Buck Strickland in King of the Hill. The obsessive guy in Dodgeball has also been in Get Out, Idiocracy, No Country for Old Men, Finding Nemo, and like every other movie that's ever been made, considering he has over 300 credits to his name. Is it just me, or did you not know this either? He's got the King of the Hill reboot, and has done multiple films nearly every year since 1988. He's just killing it, and is showing no signs of stopping. All right, but what about comedy Sweetheart from the 90s to the early 2010s?
I just ran out.
So when you say, killer, you mean...
He's a murderer. Yeah.
Cameron Diaz is a case of someone who actually did disappear. When she was still in her prime, she stepped away from acting from 2014 to 2021. She, of course, dominated the genre with hits including There's Something About Mary, Shrek, and Charlie's Angels. But I always loved her the most in Bad Teacher.
Will I get extra credit?
Hopeless. All right, I'm high as fuck. I gotta get out of here. Watch your feet.
While things have been quite quiet for her lately, it's just the calm before the storm, because she's got one hell of a 2027 coming up with Shrek 5, an action comedy she's starring in, and a straight comedy with Stephen Merchant, who I absolutely loved in Hall Pass. I can't wait to see what the two of them do together. Staying on target with icons who shined bright in the 90s and 2000s, who else but Tom Green? Guy was literally everywhere. He had a 6-year run hosting the Tom Green Show, crushed it in EuroTrip.
This is the Joseph H. Nelson Memorial Library here, okay? It's built in the 1600s.
1600s. It says 1951.
Yeah, that's the address. Over there is the Department of English. I see most of you speak English already, so we can skip that one.
Had his moment with Freddie Got Fingered, and even got referenced in an Eminem track.
Wanna get on TV and just let loose, but can't. But it's cool for Tom Green to hump a dead moose.
For a brief stretch, he really was one of the guys. He's entirely phased out of mainstream culture and hasn't done a ton of acting in recent years. Nowadays, he's taken on essentially the polar opposite lifestyle. He moved back to Canada to become a countryman and has documented all through the docuseries Tom Green Country. If you love Tom Green and Road Trip, you might be curious to learn whatever came of Mia Amber Davis, aka the cheetah that slept with DJ Qualls' character.
Not even once. I've had sex before. Just, never with a person.
Despite being part of one of the most iconic comedies of the early 2000s, she never really had much of an acting career afterwards. I always find it interesting when iconic characters from these movies fail to gain any traction, and unfortunately, things just took an even sadder turn, with everything ending in tragedy. She died at the young age of 36 due to a blood clot in her lungs. Rest in peace. My video on EuroTrip has sparked quite the debate on which movie is better between EuroTrip and Road Trip. So what better cast to move into than that of EuroTrip? I love both movies, but I'm team EuroTrip all the way. Scott McLovin and, well, his co-stars Travis Wester and Jacob Pitts were quite the cases of one-hit wonders as well. And I don't get it. These guys were brilliant together.
If you're Manchester United supporters, sing the Manchester United song.
Sing! My baby takes the morning train to find me the best freaking team in all the land. Woohoo!
Pretty damn good, lads!
Don't look in his eye, Scotty! Don't look in his eye!
There's no reason why they shouldn't have had the same career arcs that the cast of American Pie had, but DreamWorks completely dropped the ball with marketing this movie. And so it was a massive box office flop and really doomed all three of their careers. Scott, who played Scotty, only really landed supporting roles in indies afterwards and took nearly a decade hiatus from acting in 2017 until just last year. The same story can be said for both Travis and Jacob, with Jacob only doing a gig here and there, and Travis likely being done with acting altogether, with his last movie coming in 2012. To make things even worse, the only one of this group to make a splash post-EuroTrip was Michelle Trachtenberg, but she died a tragic death at the age of 39 due to a diabetes complication. Speaking of great teen comedies from this era, why don't we check back in with the American Pie bunch and Tara Reid? Another sex symbol from the franchise. I always thought she was the cutest, and I loved her as Vicky.
We start to express ourselves in new ways.
Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
I love you.
She at least had some success outside of American Pie, notably Van Wilder and My Boss's Daughter, which is a huge guilty pleasure of mine. But she never became one of the go-to actresses for comedy, or any genre for that matter. The most likely place you would have seen her since then was the Sharknado franchise.
What the hell? There's sharks in the streets.
And honestly, almost all the movies she's done since then are in a very similar vein. She's at least getting consistent roles, but it's nothing like it was 25 years ago. But there's an elephant in the room. We need to talk about one more American Pie star, and that's Jason Biggs. I mean, he was just a legend in these movies.
There's Nadia, and she just looked at me.
Well, why don't you go talk to her?
Yeah, I could do that, sure. Sure.
At last.
That's great.
And life
See you later. All right, Stifler. This is a little difficult to explain. Look, you're okay. You're okay. I mean, I like you.
Yeah, great. You can me after practice.
That was the summer when go.
Oh, the some of them so hot. So hot.
And he had a great post-American Pie run, including Loser, Saving Silverman, and My Best Friend's Girl. Hell, he even had the opportunity to reunite with Allison Hannigan to star in How I Met Your Mother.
Is there truth that you were supposed to be Ted Mosby on How I Met Your Mother?
I was offered the role, yes. It's probably my biggest regret, I'm passing. Do I want to do TV? I don't know that I was quite ready to go that route.
In hindsight, turning down that role probably feels absolutely brutal, because he's barely getting any acting opportunities whatsoever nowadays. Though he did get the opportunity to direct his first film ever, titled Untitled Home Invasion Romance. No, that's actually the title of the movie. He's also getting another shot at acting with the comedy Influenced, which was apparently just released, but I can't find it anywhere. Hopefully we get a fifth American Pie so that the careers of Jason and the rest of the gang can be relaunched. I really miss them. Speaking of 2000s icons, whatever happened to Justin Long? He really made a name for himself via Dodgeball, Waiting, Accepted, and Idiocracy, all happening within 2 years of each other.
Up. You talk like a and your shit's all retarded. What I do is just say,
The guy even did 11 movies in 2009. That's more movies than most working actors have done this decade. Kind of like Stephen Root, though, he hasn't slowed down at all. He just hasn't been getting many major motion pictures, or major roles either for that matter. The biggest recent role I can think of was one of the leads in the 2022 comedy Christmas with the Campbells. It's a Hallmark movie that was turned upside down into an R-rated raunchy comedy when it was rewritten by Vince Vaughn. And it was actually pretty funny for what it was. He's already done 13 movies this decade, though, most notably a bit role in last summer's surprise blockbuster Weapons. By the way, the first feature I directed, a stoner comedy, is available for free on Tubi. Let's stick with the Justins, though, with Justin Lee Bartha. And unless you're just like the biggest comedy movie fan of all time, you probably don't know who this is by name. Zach Galifianakis, Ed Helms, and Bradley Cooper were far from A-list status when The Hangover came out, but they sure became A-listers after it took over our culture. But what about the guy who the movie was actually about?
I don't think you should be doing too much gambling tonight, Alan.
Gambling?
Either way, you gotta be super smart to count cards, buddy, okay?
It's funny, the movie was about Doug's bachelor party, of which Doug went missing from, and it was then a race to find Doug so that they could return Doug in time for his wedding. And who played Doug? Justin Lee Bartha. But what did Justin Lee Bartha act in outside of the Hangover franchise? Who the hell knows? He's been in no big movies outside of these, primarily doing low-budget indies, and primarily in supporting roles. Maybe that bodes well for me. I'd love to work with the guy at some point. I think he's super talented and super underappreciated. He is playing a supporting role in Influenced, which was that Jason Biggs comedy that I mentioned, but just seems impossible to find. Drew Barrymore and Matt Damon are also apparently in it, so I'm not sure why they're hiding it like they are. But how about another guy who played a lead role not too long after The Hangover, but largely went missing afterwards? I loved Will Poulter in We're the Millers.
Great. I've always wanted a sister.
Get it off me.
Hey, come on.
Get it off.
Let go.
Get off.
Sorry. All right, come on. We gotta get you cleaned up.
What's wrong with you?
Don't say that. What the hell's wrong with you? I didn't mean to make...
The cast was absolutely stacked. They had Jason Sudeikis, Jennifer Aniston, and even Ed Helms. Yet he still found a way to stick out. He really struggled to gain any traction at all following the film, though. It's like Hollywood had no idea what to do with him. But to his credit, he kept fighting for his career. Thanks to his persistence, his hard work has paid off. He landed a role in the blockbuster Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and was an A24 darling this past year, starring in both Warfare and Death of a Unicorn. Let's give the guy another shot in comedy. He's got way more charisma and talent than pretty much anyone I've seen in comedy movies recently. Speaking of comedy one-hit wonders, I'd be remiss if we didn't cover the guy behind the biggest plot twist in comedy movie history. You know him as Dewey, the mentally challenged police officer from the original Scary Movie.
No talking to the witness.
Go get in the car, Doofy. She's coming with us.
Does Mom know?
Yeah, Doofus.
Mom says when I wear this badge, you're supposed to treat me like a man of the law.
Yeah, well, Mom also said for you to stop sticking your dick in the vacuum cleaner.
Or so we all thought, because in the closing minutes of the movie, we find out that he was actually not disabled the entire time. Despite this, his career never really took off, but he's still been acting through all the years, mainly in indies, and he's even helped several of them get their funding. And I guess good things come to those who wait, because 26 years later, he's reprising his role in Scary Movie 6, which I can't believe is only 2 weeks away at this point. I remember when it first got greenlit. I've been waiting for this movie for like 2 years now. How about Will Ferrell, though?
To new beginnings.
Actually, I gave this to you for your wedding.
This model?
No, this exact one.
The guy completely took over comedies in the 2000s and 2010s with the likes of Old School, Anchorman, Step Brothers, and so many others. Yet he's no longer comedy's leading man. After building up one of the most impressive empires of all time with his partner Adam McKay, he suffered one of the most shocking betrayals of all time that completely changed the landscape of comedy. I take you through this shocking journey here.